Disappear. You're embarrassing me. My son-in-law whispered those words at his own wedding reception, right after I handed him a check for $950,000. I'm Anita Coleman, 61 years old, and for 32 years, everyone saw me as just the hospital janitor. The black woman in navy scrubs mopping floors at dawn, emptying trash bins, invisible to most doctors who walked past me like I was part of the furniture. Brandon Phillips, my daughter's new husband, made sure I understood exactly how embarrassing my presence was to his Harvard MBA image. He wanted my money, my blessing, my check with all those zeros, but not me standing in his reception photos, not me sitting at the main tables where his parents' friends could see. What Brandon didn't know, what he couldn't have known because he never bothered to ask, was that while he was buying imported suits with his daddy's trust fund money, I was quietly buying every property that mattered in this city. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is showing them exactly who they just disrespected. But I didn't argue that night. Didn't make a scene. Didn't raise my voice or let a single tear fall. I just smiled, folded that check in half, and tucked it back into my purse. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Here's how a nobody janitor taught an MBA that respect isn't something you can buy, and why that lesson cost him everything he thought he deserved. Let me take you back 19 months, when my daughter Sarah first brought Brandon home to meet me. I was finishing my evening shift at St. Mary's Hospital, just cleaning up the emergency wing. Sarah had warned me on the phone the week before. "Mom, he comes from old money. His father owns Phillips Investment Group downtown. Please don't, mention work too much. Don't mention work too much." Like 32 years of keeping a hospital running was something shameful. But I understood. My baby girl was 28, in love, and worried her mama's profession might somehow dim her shine, so I bit my tongue and said I'd be on my best behavior. The first red flag should have been obvious. When Sarah introduced us in my living room, Brandon actually looked past me, like he was searching for someone else, someone who could possibly be the mother Sarah had been talking about for 3 months. "This is my mom," Sarah said, her voice already smaller than usual. Brandon's smile froze for just a second. His eyes did that quick scan, taking in my scrubs, my sensible shoes, the tiredness I couldn't quite hide after a 10-hour shift. "Mrs. Coleman, it's nice to finally meet you." His handshake lasted exactly 2.5 seconds. I counted. Then he glanced at Sarah with this look, this tiny flicker of something I'd seen 1,000 times in my life. Disappointment. Maybe even pity for her. "Please, call me Anita," I said, keeping my voice warm. "Sarah tells me you work in finance." "Investment analysis," he corrected, like the distinction mattered. "I'm with my father's firm. We handle portfolios for high net worth clients." He said it slowly, like I might not understand big words. "And Sarah mentioned you work at St. Mary's?" 32 years next month," I said. "I keep the place running." "Oh." His posture relaxed. "Facilities management. That's important work." Sarah jumped in quickly. "Mom basically runs the whole maintenance operation. Everyone at the hospital knows her." I caught Brandon Googling something on his phone while I was in the kitchen making coffee. When I came back, his whole demeanor had shifted. More comfortable, more in control. He'd found the average salary for hospital janitors, $38,000 a year. That number made everything make sense to him. Solved the puzzle of why Sarah, his beautiful, educated Sarah, had a mother who wore scrubs with her name stitched on the pocket. That was his first mistake. He never asked what keeping a hospital running actually meant. Never wondered why doctors and nurses and even the CEO stopped to chat with me in hallways. Never questioned why I'd been in the same position for 3 decades if I was just pushing a mop. Over the next year, the pattern became clearer than clean windows. At Sarah's birthday dinner, he introduced me to his college friends as Sarah's mother who works at the hospital. Not maintenance, not environmental services, just works at the hospital. Like he was protecting them from uncomfortable details. When they got engaged, his mother, Patricia Phillips, called me to discuss wedding plans. "Anita, darling, we're so excited to welcome Sarah into our family. Now, about the reception, it's going to be at the country club. Are you comfortable in those settings? We just want you to feel, at ease." At ease. Like respect was about being comfortable, like my discomfort was the problem, not their condescension. The worst part wasn't the disrespect itself. Lord knows, I dealt with that my whole life. Being a black woman in America, being someone people assumed had nothing, I'd built immunity to that poison years ago. The worst part was watching my Sarah shrink a little more each time it happened. Watching her learn to apologize for me before I even entered a room. "He doesn't mean it that way, Mom," she'd say after Brandon made another casual comment about my work. His family they come from a different world. Different world. Like dignity and respect were geography. But the real turning point came 4 months before the wedding. They were house hunting, looking at a beautiful colonial on Riverside Drive, $2.7 million. Brandon kept talking about leveraging his connections, how his family relationships would help with financing, how he understood these neighborhoods. I stayed quiet during the whole tour, just listened and observed. At the end, the realtor, a professional woman named Jennifer Martinez, handed out her business cards. When she got to me, she paused, looked closer at my face. "Wait," Jennifer said slowly. "Are you Anita Coleman? From Coleman Properties?" Brandon's head snapped toward me so fast I heard his neck crack. "I think you have me confused with someone else," I said smoothly, taking her card. "I work at St. Mary's Hospital, Environmental Services." Jennifer's eyebrows pulled together, confused. "Oh, I'm so sorry. You look exactly like someone I met at a real estate investment conference last year. My mistake." "Easy mistake to make," I said with a smile. Brandon relaxed immediately, crisis averted. But I saw something shift behind his eyes. A tiny seed of doubt, like maybe there were puzzle pieces he hadn't found yet. For the next week, he was different around me. More polite, asked more questions about my work. But it was the wrong kind of curiosity, the kind that comes from fear, not respect. That's when I knew the wedding was going to be a problem. Not because of what Brandon thought of me, but because of what my silence was teaching my daughter. That some people's comfort matters more than other people's dignity. That love comes with conditions, that you can fold yourself smaller and smaller until you disappear completely and call that peace. The wedding invitation arrived 5 weeks before the ceremony. Heavy cream cardstock, gold foil lettering, the kind that costs more per card than I used to spend on groceries for a week when Sarah was little. Inside, tucked behind the main invitation, was a smaller card I'd never seen at any wedding before. Reception guidelines for extended family members. I read it twice, just to make sure I understood. Please keep conversations appropriate for mixed company. Avoid personal anecdotes that may not resonate with all guests. Remember that many attendees are business associates and community leaders. Dress code strictly enforced. Translation: don't embarrass us. Don't tell stories about mopping floors. Don't remind anyone that you're the help, even though you're the mother of the bride. I set the card on my kitchen counter and made myself tea. Same mug I'd been using for 18 years, the one Sarah made me in high school ceramics class. It had a crack running down the side, but I'd never replaced it. Some things are worth keeping, even when they're broken. My phone rang that evening. Sarah's name lit up the screen, and I already knew what was coming. "Mom, about the wedding." Her voice had that careful, walking on eggless quality. "Brandon's parents want to make sure everything is perfect. They've offered to cover your dress, hair, makeup, everything. They just want to coordinate." Coordinate? Like I was a decoration that needed to match the flowers. "That's generous of them," I said. "But I can handle my own appearance, baby." "I know you can. It's just, this venue, these people." She paused. "It's important to Brandon that everything goes smoothly. Everything, including me." "Sarah." I set down my tea. "Are you happy?" Silence stretched between us. Too long. Way too long. "Of course I'm happy, Mom. Why would you even ask that?" "Because my daughter doesn't usually need other people to coordinate her mother. It's not like that. His family they have standards, expectations. I'm trying to fit into his world." "And what about your world? Does he fit into that?" More silence. "I have to go, Mom. We'll talk later." She hung up before I could say I love you. I pulled out my laptop and looked at the seating chart Sarah had sent me 2 weeks ago, 320 guests. Brandon's Harvard classmates, his father's business partners, country club members, city officials. The mayor was coming. 2 state senators, a federal judge, and scattered throughout, my people. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, the hospital CEO who started as a nurse 35 years ago, Marcus Washington, head of maintenance, who'd been my supervisor for 25 years, Teresa Martinez, and her family from housekeeping. These were good people, people who'd watched me come to work before sunrise for 3 decades, people who knew exactly what keeping a hospital running meant. Table 18, back corner, next to the kitchen service doors. That's where they'd put me, where they'd put us. I looked at that seating chart for a long time. Then I opened a different folder on my laptop. The one labeled Coleman Properties, Portfolio Summary. 42 Commercial Properties. 127 Residential Units. The building Brandon's own firm leased office space in, the apartment complex where his best man lived, the shopping center where his mother got her hair done every Thursday at 2 p.m., and that beautiful colonial on Riverside Drive they'd been touring. The one Brandon was so sure his connections would help him buy. I owned it, had owned it for 6 years. My phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer, David Richardson. He'd been handling my properties since I bought my first building 28 years ago. "Anita, the Phillips kids' application came through for Riverside property. Want me to approve it?" I stared at that text for a full minute. Then I typed back, "Hold it. Don't approve or deny yet. I need to think about something. Everything okay? Just teaching someone a lesson about assumptions. I'll call you Monday." I closed my laptop and looked around my small living room, same furniture I'd had for 15 years, same carpet, same curtains, same everything. People who saw this house, this neighborhood, this life, they made assumptions. They saw a woman who worked hard and stayed humble. They didn't see the bank accounts, the investment portfolio, the properties generating $240,000 in monthly revenue. I'd kept it quiet for 32 years. Not because I was ashamed of my success, but because I'd learned something important when I was young. People treat you different when they know you have money. They want things. They act different. They're not real anymore. My late husband, James, he understood. Before he passed 12 years ago, he'd said, "Baby, you built something real, something that can't be taken away. But the minute people know about it, they'll try to make it about them instead of about you." He was right, so I'd stayed invisible, kept working at the hospital even after I didn't need the paycheck, kept living in this modest house, kept driving my 9-year-old Honda, kept being exactly who I'd always been. But now my silence was costing my daughter something I never intended. The next morning was Sunday, and I did what I always do on Sundays. Got up at 6:30 a.m., made breakfast, and drove to Greater Hope Baptist Church for 8 a.m. service. I'd been going to Greater Hope for 40 years, since before Sarah was born. These people knew me, really knew me. Pastor Williams was preaching about masks that morning, about the faces we show the world versus the truth we hide. Sometimes we think we're protecting people by hiding our light, he said. But what we're really doing is teaching them that dimming yourself is love. After service, I stood in the fellowship hall with my coffee, and Mother Gibson, 84 years old and sharp as a tack, came up to me. "Baby, I can see something weighing on you. This about Sarah's wedding?" I shouldn't have been surprised. Mother Gibson had known me since I was pregnant with Sarah. She'd held my hand at James's funeral. She'd been there for every major moment of my life. "How'd you know?" "Because I've seen that look before." That's the look of a woman trying to decide between keeping peace and keeping her dignity. She patted my hand. "Let me tell you something my grandmother told me back in Mississippi." She said, "Baby girl, they can take your money, your house, your man. But the minute you let them take your dignity, you got nothing left. You hear me?" "I hear you. That boy treating you right?" "Brandon?" I sighed. "He treats me like I'm invisible, unless he needs something." "And Sarah?" "That's what hurt. Sarah's trying so hard to fit into his world, she's forgetting where she came from." Mother Gibson nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time to remind her, not with anger, not with cruelty, but with truth." She squeezed my hand. "The truth will either break them or make them stronger. Either way, you'll know what you're dealing with." I drove home thinking about that. The truth. For 32 years, I'd kept the truth hidden, thinking I was protecting something. But what was I really protecting? Brandon's comfort? His parents' assumptions? Or was I protecting my own peace? Avoiding the complications that come with being a successful Black woman in spaces that don't expect you. Monday morning, I called David Richardson. "I've made a decision about the Riverside property." "I'm listening." "Approve the application. Standard lease terms. Market rate rent, first month, last month, security deposit. $14,800 monthly." "Anita, you know that's high for that area. We could go $12,000 and still be competitive." "Market rate, David. If Brandon Phillips is as smart as his Harvard MBA says he is, he'll understand it's a fair price for that property. And if he complains, then he'll learn something about how real estate actually works." I paused. "One more thing. I want the lease paperwork to show Coleman Properties as the landlord. Full transparency. No shell companies, no management firms hiding the ownership. I want my name on every page." David was quiet for a moment. "Anita, are you sure about this?" Once they know, we'll all stop pretending." "That's exactly what needs to happen." "All right. I'll have the paperwork ready by Wednesday. They wanted to move in before the wedding, right?" "That's what the application said. Closing is in 12 days. I hung up and sat in my car outside the hospital. My shift started in 15 minutes. I could see the morning crew arriving, people I'd worked alongside for decades. Marcus waved at me from across the parking lot. Teresa was helping her daughter out of the car. The girl was starting as a nursing assistant next week. This was my community. These were my people. And yet, in 12 days, my own daughter was getting married and I was assigned to table 18, like a distant cousin nobody wanted to deal with. My phone buzzed. "Sarah. Mom, can you come to the final dress fitting Saturday? Brandon's mom wants everyone there for photos." Everyone. I wondered if that included me, or if I was just supposed to blend into the background. "What time?" 11 a.m. at Belle's Bridal. "And Mom, please, can you maybe not wear your work shoes? Brandon's mom is very particular about photos." Something in me cracked. Not broke, just cracked. Like that mug at home. "Sarah, baby, do you hear yourself right now?" "What do you mean?" "You're asking your mother not to wear her work shoes to your dress fitting. You're apologizing for me before I even show up. When did you start being ashamed of where you came from?" "I'm not ashamed, Mom. I'm just trying to make everyone comfortable. Everyone except me." Silence. "That's not fair," she finally said. Fair would be your future husband asking about my life instead of assuming he knows everything about it. Fair would be his mother treating me like Sarah's mother instead of like the help. Fair would be you standing up for me instead of asking me to shrink. I can't do this right now. I have to go. She hung up. Again. I sat in that parking lot for another 10 minutes, watching the sun rise over St. Mary's Hospital. This building represented everything I'd worked for. Not just the paycheck, though that first job had mattered when Sarah was little and money was tight, but the respect I'd earned here, the way doctors asked my opinion on facility upgrades, the way new staff members were told, "If you need to know how this hospital really works, ask Miss Anita." I'd built 2 empires in my life, one visible, one invisible. The question was, which one mattered more? That Saturday, I showed up to Belle's bridal at 10:55 a.m. I wore a simple navy dress, pearl earrings James had given me for our 15th anniversary, and yes, I wore my comfortable shoes. Not my work shoes, but comfortable ones. At 61, I'd earned the right to comfortable feet. Brandon's mother, Patricia, was already there, holding court with the bridal consultant and 2 of her friends. She saw me walk in and her smile tightened. "Anita, so glad you could make it. We're just discussing alterations." Sarah came out in her dress, and my breath caught. She was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. For a moment, all the hurt faded and I just saw my baby girl, glowing and happy and about to start a new chapter. "Mom," Sarah's eyes filled with tears, "what do you think?" "I think you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life." Patricia stepped forward with her phone. "Let's get some photos." "Sarah, stand by the window. The lighting is perfect there." Sarah moved to the window, and Patricia started directing everyone. "Ladies, gather around. Beautiful, beautiful." "Oh, Anita, could you just maybe step to the side a bit? You're blocking the light." I stepped aside, then further aside, then I realized I wasn't in the photo at all anymore. "Perfect," Patricia said, snapping away. "These will be gorgeous for the wedding album." One of Patricia's friends, a woman in designer, everything, leaned toward me. "So, Anita, Sarah mentioned you work at St. Mary's. My housekeeper's sister works there too." "Small world." "Very small," I said. "It must be so rewarding. That kind of work. So honest." Honest. Like my work was noble because it was humble. Like I should be grateful for the dignity they were assigning to my poverty. The bridal consultant brought out champagne to celebrate the beautiful bride. Everyone took a glass. Patricia raised hers to Sarah and Brandon. May their life together be filled with success, prosperity, and the right kind of people. The right kind of people. She looked directly at me when she said it. I sipped my champagne and said nothing, but something hardened in my chest. Not anger, something colder, resolve. After the fitting, Sarah walked me to my car. "Mom, thank you for coming. I know it's not always easy with Brandon's family. Baby, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "When you look at Brandon, when you really look at him, do you see someone who loves all of you, including where you came from?" Sarah's face tightened. "Why are you asking me this now? The wedding is in 11 days. Because in 11 days, you're going to be his wife. And I need to know that he sees you, really sees you, not just the parts that fit into his world." "He loves me, Mom." "That's not what I asked." She looked away. "I have to go. Brandon's parents are taking us to lunch at the club. You're not inviting me?" "Mom, please. Not today." I watched her walk back inside, and I knew that my daughter was already disappearing, piece by piece, trying to fit into a space that was never meant to hold her. That night, I called David again. "The lease is ready. Brandon and Sarah are signing on Thursday." "Good. I want to be there." "Anita, that's not standard procedure. Usually, the property manager handles." "I want to be there, David. I want to see his face when he realizes who his landlord is." David sighed. "You're sure about this? Once you do this, there's no taking it back." "I've been taking things back for 32 years. Staying small, staying quiet, staying invisible. I'm done taking things back." "All right." Thursday at 2 p.m., my office. Wednesday night, Sarah called me crying. "Mom, something's wrong with the house. The sellers are being weird about closing. Brandon's freaking out. He's been on the phone with his dad all day." "What kind of weird?" "They won't return calls. The realtor says everything's fine, but Brandon thinks they're backing out. He's talking about suing them." "Mom, we need this house. We've already given notice on Brandon's apartment. We're supposed to move in this weekend." I could have told her then. Could have explained that there were no sellers being weird, that the house was mine, that everything was actually fine, but I didn't. "I'm sure it'll work out, baby. Will you pray for us? I know you think Brandon's family is difficult, but he's a good man, Mom. He takes care of me." "Does he? What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, baby. I'll pray for you." After we hung up, I did pray. I prayed for wisdom, prayed for clarity, prayed that what I was about to do was the right thing, not just the thing that would prove a point. Thursday at 1:45 p.m., I drove to David's office downtown. I wore one of my church dresses, the good navy one with the silver buttons, put on my pearls, did my hair. If Brandon thought I looked like the help at my finest, wait until he saw me in my armor. David met me in the lobby. "They're already here. Conference room B, Anita. Last chance to change your mind." "I'm not changing my mind." "Then let's do this." We walked down the hallway, and I could hear Brandon's voice through the door, confident, loud, talking about market comparisons and investment potential. The voice of someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. David opened the door. Brandon and Sarah sat on one side of the conference table, Jennifer Martinez, the realtor, on the other. Brandon was in a full suit, looking every bit the Harvard MBA. Sarah wore a dress I'd never seen before, probably something Patricia had bought her. "Sorry for the delay," David said. "I wanted to make sure the property owner could be here for the signing." Brandon waved his hand. "No problem. We're just excited to finalize this. My father always says the key to building wealth is strategic real estate investments." He smiled at Jennifer. "This property is going to be the foundation of our portfolio." "That's wonderful," David said. "And it's always good to meet your landlord face to face. Build that relationship from the start." "Absolutely. Smart business." Brandon pulled out his checkbook. "I assume the landlord wants certified funds for the deposits?" "Actually," David said, "she's right here." He stepped aside. I walked into the room. Sarah's face went white. Brandon's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "Mom?" Sarah whispered. I sat down at the head of the table, directly across from Brandon. "Hello, Sarah." "Brandon. I'm glad we could all be here today." Brandon looked at David, then at Jennifer, then back at me. I'm confused." "It's simple," I said, folding my hands on the table. "I'm Anita Coleman, owner of Coleman Properties, and I'm your new landlord." The color drained from Brandon's face. "That's not," the listing said. The listing said, Coleman Properties, which is me, has been me for 28 years. Jennifer cleared her throat. "I tried to tell you at the showing. I recognized Mrs. Coleman from the real estate investment conference, but you seemed certain she was just." "The janitor," I finished. "Yes, I am the janitor at St. Mary's Hospital. I'm also the owner of 42 commercial properties and 127 residential units in this city, including the building your father's firm leases space in, and the apartment complex where your best man lives, and this house." Brandon's hands gripped the edge of the table. This is some kind of joke." "Sarah, did you know about this?" Sarah shook her head, tears streaming down her face. She was staring at me like I was a stranger. Mom, what is this? Why didn't you tell me? I've been trying to tell you for 28 years, baby. Every time you came home from school proud of a good grade, I told you. Every time I worked double shifts so you could go to that music camp, I told you. Every time I showed you that hard work and discipline build something real, I told you. I looked at Brandon. You just weren't listening. Brandon stood up. This is insane. You're a janitor. I've seen the tax returns Sarah showed me. You make $42,000 a year. From the hospital, yes. That's my salary from Street Mary's. My other income comes from elsewhere. How much elsewhere? His voice was sharp now, angry. David slid a document across the table. Coleman Properties generates approximately $2.9 million in annual net revenue. Mrs. Coleman's current net worth is estimated at $47 million. The room went silent. Sarah made a sound like all the air had left her body. Brandon grabbed the document, scanning it frantically. This can't be real. There's no way. You live in your house is a modest 3-bedroom in Riverside Park, I said calmly. Paid off in 1998. I've never felt the need to upgrade. I like my neighbors. I like my church being 10 minutes away. I like my life. But you're a janitor. He said it like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't make sense. I'm a woman who worked hard, saved smart, and invested wisely. The janitorial job was how it started. 32 years ago, I was a single mother with a 6-month-old baby and a high school diploma. Street Mary's hired me at $6.50 an hour. I took every overtime shift I could get. Saved every penny I didn't absolutely need to spend. In 1997, I bought my first property, a duplex in Riverside, for $78,000. Fixed it up myself on weekends, rented it out, used that income to buy another property, then another. I looked at Sarah. She was crying silently, mascara running down her cheeks. By the time you were in middle school, I owned 8 properties. By the time you graduated high school, I owned 23. I kept working at the hospital because I loved the work, because those people respected me, because I didn't want money to change who I was. Brandon sat back down heavily. Why? Why would you hide this? I didn't hide it. You just never asked. You saw a black woman in work clothes and decided you knew everything about me. You decided I was poor, uneducated, an embarrassment. You never once asked about my life, my history, my dreams. You just assumed. Sarah knew. He turned to her. You had to know. Sarah shook her head. I didn't. I swear, Brandon, I didn't know. Mom, how could you not tell me? I tried to tell you, baby, in 100 different ways. But somewhere along the way, you stopped asking about my life. You stopped being curious about how I afforded your college tuition in full, no loans. You stopped wondering how I took you to Europe twice before you turned 20. You accepted the story that was easier to believe. This is manipulation, Brandon said. You let us plan this whole wedding, take money from my parents. Let us. He couldn't finish. Let you what? Let you put me at table 18? Let you give me guidelines about appropriate conversation? Let your mother suggest I might not be comfortable at the country club? I leaned forward. Brandon, I've been a member of Riverside Country Club since 2003. I just never go because I find the people boring. His face went from white to red. You've been playing us. No, I've been watching you play yourselves. I've been watching my daughter disappear bit by bit, trying to fit into your world. I've been watching you treat me like I'm invisible, unless you need something. And I've been deciding whether the lesson you needed was one I was willing to teach. Jennifer cleared her throat. Should I leave? No, I said. We still have a lease to sign. That is, if Brandon still wants the house. Brandon looked at the lease papers like they were covered in poison. At $14,800 a month? That's highway robbery. That's market rate for a property of this caliber. If you'd like to see comparable rentals in this neighborhood, Jennifer can provide them. Jennifer nodded quickly. She's right. Actually, $14,800 is on the lower end for this area. I'm not signing this. Brandon pushed the papers away. I'm not giving you the satisfaction. Then don't. I stood up. But you gave notice on your apartment. You have 3 days to find somewhere else to live. And Brandon, one more thing. That building you work in? Phillips Investment Group's lease is up for renewal in 6 weeks. As the property owner, I'll be reviewing all tenant applications personally. His eyes went wide. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Run my business? Make decisions about who I want as tenants? Brandon, that's exactly what landlords do. We evaluate reliability, financial stability, and character. Just like you evaluated me and decided I wasn't worth basic respect. Sarah stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. Stop it. Both of you. Just stop it. She looked at me with something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Not love. Not respect. Something harder. Mom, you let me go through life thinking we struggled. You let me take that scholarship to state instead of going to my dream school because I thought we couldn't afford it. You let me work 3 jobs in college. For what? To teach me some lesson? To teach you that money doesn't make you better than anyone else. That hard work has value regardless of the paycheck. That respect is earned, not bought. No. Sarah's voice shook. You taught me to be ashamed. You taught me to apologize for you. And now you're sitting here, humiliating my husband a week before our wedding because he made assumptions? Mom, you built your whole life on letting people make assumptions about you. That hit harder than I expected. Sarah. No, I need to think. I can't be here right now. She grabbed her purse and walked out. Brandon stood up slowly. He looked at me with something between hatred and fear. You just cost me my wife. No, Brandon. You did that yourself when you told her mother to disappear. He walked out without another word. The conference room was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning. David and Jennifer were staring at me like I'd just detonated a bomb, which, I suppose, I had. Jennifer gathered her papers quickly. I'll reschedule this for when everyone's had time to think. No need, I said. They won't be signing. Brandon's pride won't let him. After they left, David sat down across from me. Anita, what just happened? I don't know. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat on the table to make them stop. I thought I was teaching him a lesson. But Sarah, the way she looked at me, she's in shock. Give her time. She said I taught her to be ashamed. David, that's the one thing I never wanted. The one thing. You raised a strong, educated, independent woman. She went to college, built a career, found someone she loves. You did that. I also let her believe we were poor. Let her work herself to exhaustion in college when I had millions in the bank. What kind of mother does that? David was quiet for a moment. The kind who wanted her daughter to understand the value of work. The kind who didn't want money to be the reason or the excuse for anything. Anita, you made choices. Maybe they weren't perfect choices, but they came from love. Love that just destroyed my relationship with my daughter a week before her wedding. I drove home in a daze. My phone rang 6 times. Patricia Phillips. Twice. Brandon. Once. 3 calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all. When I pulled into my driveway, Pastor Williams was sitting on my front porch. Mother Gibson called me, he said. Told me you might need some company tonight. I unlocked the door and let him in. Made coffee. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd made the decision to show up at that lease signing. Tell me I didn't just ruin my daughter's life. Did you? She walked out. She said I taught her to be ashamed. Pastor Williams added sugar to his coffee slowly, thinking, Anita, can I ask you something? When you decided not to tell Sarah about the money, what were you protecting? Her. I was protecting her. I didn't want her to grow up entitled, thinking money solved everything. I didn't want her to be like those kids at her school whose parents bought them cars and paid for everything and what? The truth came out before I could stop it, and I didn't want her to be ashamed of me before the money. I didn't want her to think that who I was before wasn't enough. Pastor Williams nodded. There it is. What? The real reason. You weren't just teaching Sarah about money. You were protecting yourself from the possibility that your daughter might love the wealthy you more than the working you, that she might look back and be embarrassed about the years when it was just you two in that little apartment eating mac and cheese for dinner 3 nights a week. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. James always said I was enough. He'd tell me, "Baby, you're enough exactly as you are." But after he died and the money started coming, I didn't know how to tell her. And then years passed, and it felt too late. It's never too late for truth. But truth without grace is just cruelty. And what you did today, in that conference room, that wasn't grace. He told me to disappear. At my daughter's wedding reception, he took my check and told me to disappear because I embarrassed him. And you were hurt, rightfully hurt. But Anita, you're not just hurting him with this lesson, you're hurting Sarah, and I think you're hurting yourself too. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. I need time to process this, please don't call me. I showed Pastor Williams the message. He read it and sighed. Give her what she's asking for. Time, space. But Anita, you need to decide something. Do you want to be right, or do you want your daughter at that wedding? I want her to marry someone who respects her. Respects where she came from. Then talk to her, not at her, not teaching her a lesson. Just talk to her, mother to daughter, about why you made the choices you made. After Pastor Williams left, I sat in my living room as the sun went down. Didn't turn on any lights, just sat in the growing darkness, thinking about all the choices that had led to this moment. My phone rang again. This time, it was Richard Phillips, Brandon's father. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Coleman. Richard Phillips. I think we need to talk. I'm not in the mood for threats, Mr. Phillips. No threats. Just a conversation. Father to father, so to speak. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? Why? Because my son came home this afternoon and told me what happened. And I think there are things about this situation that need to be said in person. Something in his voice made me agree. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., Riverside Diner on Main Street. I'll be there. I hung up and immediately wondered if I'd just made another mistake. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Sarah's face, the way she'd looked at me like I was a stranger. The way she'd said, "You taught me to be ashamed," like it was the worst accusation she could make. At 3 a.m., I got up and went to Sarah's old room. I'd kept it exactly the same since she moved out. Her swimming trophies on the shelf, her prom photos on the wall. The quilt her grandmother had made, still folded at the foot of the bed. I sat on that bed and picked up the stuffed bear she'd slept with until she was 12. Mr. Buttons, she'd called him. I'd bought him at a hospital gift shop when she was 3, using my employee discount. Cost me $8.99, which was more than I should have spent that week, but she'd wanted him so badly. I messed up, baby girl, I whispered to the empty room. I thought I was protecting you, thought I was teaching you, but maybe I was just hiding. My phone lit up on the nightstand. A text, sent at 3:17 a.m. It was from Sarah. Mom, I know you're awake. You never sleep when you're upset. I'm awake too. I don't know what to say to you right now. I don't know if I'm more angry or hurt or confused, but I need you to understand something. When I was 19 and working those 3 jobs, there was a night I called you crying because I was so tired. You know what you said? You said, "Baby." This is how we build character. This is how we learn what we're made of. I believed you. I believed we were struggling together, but we weren't, were we? You were testing me, and I don't know if I can forgive that. I stared at that message for a long time, then I typed back, "You're right. I was testing you, and that was wrong. But Sarah, everything I did, every choice I made, it came from love. Flawed, imperfect, sometimes misguided love, but love. Can we talk? Really talk? Not me teaching, not you defending, just talk." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. After the wedding. If there still is a wedding, Brandon's not speaking to me, says I have to choose between him and you. My heart sank. "And what did you say?" I told him that's not a choice anyone should have to make. Then he left. He's staying at his parents' house. I met Richard Phillips at Riverside Diner at 7:55 a.m. He was already there, sitting in a corner booth, looking older than I'd expected. Tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying heavy things for too long. "Mrs. Coleman. Thank you for coming." He stood when I approached, which surprised me. "Call me Anita." "Richard." He waited until I sat before sitting back down. I ordered coffee. "Wasn't sure if you'd eaten." "I'm fine with coffee." The waitress brought 2 cups, and we sat in awkward silence for a moment. Finally, Richard spoke. "Brandon told me what happened yesterday, what he said to you at the reception." "Which part? The part where he told me to disappear, or the part where he found out his embarrassing mother-in-law owns half the commercial real estate he walks past every day?" Richard winced. "Both parts. And Anita, I owe you an apology. Several apologies, actually." I sipped my coffee and waited. My wife and I, we raised Brandon with certain advantages. Good schools, connections, opportunities most people don't get. But somewhere along the way, we forgot to teach him the most important thing, that wealth doesn't make you better than anyone else. It just makes you more responsible. "That's a nice speech, Richard." "It's not a speech. It's the truth I'm realizing too late." He ran his hand through his gray hair. "When Brandon came home yesterday, he was a mess. Angry, humiliated, scared. And you know what he said? He said, 'Dad, how could I not know? How could I be that blind?' And I realized I taught him that blindness. My wife and I, we taught him to see the world in categories, our kind of people and everyone else. And I was everyone else. You were. And I'm ashamed to admit that when I met you at the engagement party, my first thought was relief." "Relief?" "That Sarah's mother seemed, forgive me, manageable. Someone who wouldn't make waves. Someone who understood her place." He looked directly at me. "I know how that sounds. I know what that makes me. But I'm trying to be honest here." I set down my coffee cup. "Richard, why are you telling me this?" "Because my son's marriage is falling apart before it even begins. Because Sarah called my wife at 4 a.m. crying, saying she doesn't know who her mother is anymore. And because I think you and we both made mistakes with our children. Don't compare us. I worked 3 jobs to raise my daughter. You wrote checks." "You're right. But Anita, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about truth. You hid your success from Sarah. I hid my failures from Brandon. That caught my attention. What failures?" Richard was quiet for a long moment. "Phillips Investment Group isn't what it used to be. We've been hemorrhaging clients for 2 years, made some bad calls, lost some major accounts. The firm Brandon works for, the one he's so proud of, it's going under. I just haven't told him yet." "How long?" 6 months, maybe 8 if we're lucky. I've been trying to save it, but I think it's too late. And Brandon, he has no idea. He thinks everything's fine. Thinks his job is secure. Thinks his father has it all figured out. So we're both liars then. Just different kinds. Maybe. Or maybe we're both parents who thought we were protecting our children when we were really just protecting ourselves." Richard leaned forward. Anita, I came here to ask you something. Not for Brandon, but for Sarah. Can you give them the house? Excuse me? The house on Riverside Drive. Give it to them. As a wedding gift. Let Brandon keep his dignity. Let Sarah have the life she's dreamed of. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Richard, do you hear yourself? You want me to reward your son for disrespecting me? Let him think he can treat people however he wants and Mommy will fix it? No, I want you to save your daughter's wedding, because whether you give them that house or not, Brandon learned his lesson yesterday. Trust me, he's learned it. Has he? Or is he just embarrassed he got caught? Does it matter? Anita, in 2 days, your daughter is supposed to walk down an aisle. Right now, she's at home crying because her mother and her fiancé are at war and she's caught in the middle. Is being right worth losing her? The waitress refilled our coffee. I watched the steam rise from my cup, gathering my thoughts. You know what the worst part is, Richard? It's not that Brandon disrespected me. It's that Sarah let him. That somewhere along the way, my strong, brilliant daughter learned to apologize for me. And I don't know if that's his fault, or mine, or both. Then fix it, not by punishing Brandon, by talking to Sarah, really talking to her. She won't talk to me. She said she needs time. Then give her time, but also give her grace. Give her a wedding day that isn't overshadowed by this. He pulled out an envelope. Brandon wrote this last night. He asked me to give it to you. I haven't read it, but he said it's the truth. Maybe not the truth that fixes everything, but the truth he needed to say. I took the envelope, but didn't open it. And if I say no to the house, then I'll respect that decision. But Anita, ask yourself this. 20 years from now, what do you want to remember about your daughter's wedding? That you taught Brandon Phillips a lesson? Or that you were there when your daughter needed you most? After Richard left, I sat in that diner booth for another 30 minutes, staring at Brandon's envelope. The waitress refilled my coffee twice before I finally opened it. The letter was handwritten, 2 pages, his handwriting shaky in places like he'd written it in the middle of the night. Mrs. Coleman, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if I deserve for you to read this, but I need to write it anyway. Yesterday, when I walked into that conference room and saw you sitting there, my first thought wasn't shame, it was fear. Fear that everything I thought I knew about myself was wrong. I've spent my whole life believing that success was something you inherited, that the right schools and the right connections and the right last name meant you'd figured life out. And then you, a woman I dismissed as irrelevant, showed me that everything I believed was a lie. I've been thinking about all the times I introduced you as Sarah's mother who works at the hospital. All the times I steered conversations away from you. All the times I made Sarah feel like she had to apologize for where she came from. And the worst part, the part that kept me awake all night, is that I did it unconsciously. I genuinely believed I was protecting Sarah from embarrassment. It never occurred to me that I was the embarrassment. You were right about everything you said. I made assumptions. I judged you. I treated you like you were invisible. And when you handed me that check at the reception, I saw an opportunity, not a gift. I saw money, not the woman who loved my wife enough to give it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything, but I need you to know that I see you now, really see you. And I'm sorry it took humiliation for me to open my eyes. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. It was a good apology, honest, vulnerable. But was it enough? Could words fix what had been broken? My phone rang. Mother Gibson. Baby, you at the diner? How did you? Riverside is a small community. Betty Lou saw you there with Richard Phillips and called me. You doing all right? I don't know what I'm doing anymore, Mother Gibson. I thought I was teaching a lesson, but all I did was hurt my daughter. Then unhurt her. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Pride makes it complicated. Love makes it simple. You love that girl? More than anything. Then go to her. Not with lessons, not with explanations. Just go to her as her mama. and tell her the truth, the whole truth. Why you hid the money, why you let her work those jobs, why you stayed quiet all these years. She needs to understand, Anita, not the businesswoman, not the landlord, her mama. After we hung up, I drove to Sarah's apartment, the one she'd been sharing with Brandon before they were supposed to move into the house. I sat in my car outside for 10 minutes, working up the courage to knock. Sarah opened the door on the third knock. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red and swollen. She was wearing one of James's old college sweatshirts, the one I'd given her when she went to college herself. "Mom, can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was chaos. Wedding gifts half unwrapped, boxes packed for the move that wasn't happening. Sarah's wedding dress hanging on the closet door, a ghost of a future that was uncertain now. "Brandon's not here," Sarah said. "I know. I came to talk to you." We sat on her couch, the same couch I'd helped her move in 2 years ago. The silence stretched between us like a canyon. "I read Brandon's letter," I said finally. "Richard gave it to me this morning. He showed me a copy before he took it to you. It's a good apology." "It is, but it doesn't change anything, does it? You still think I'm marrying the wrong person." "No, baby. I think you're marrying someone who made a mistake, someone who's learning. The question is, can you marry him knowing who he was and trusting who he's becoming?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. My whole life, I thought I knew you. I thought I knew our story. But I didn't, did I?" This was it, the moment of truth. "No, you didn't know the whole story. And that's my fault, Sarah. I need to tell you about your father. I know about Dad. He died when I was 16. You know he died. You don't know why he wanted me to keep the money secret." I took a breath. "Your father, James, he came from money. Not as much as Brandon's family, but comfortable. When we met, I was 22, working as a janitor, and he was 25, just starting at his father's accounting firm. His family, they hated me, said I was after his money, said I'd trapped him when I got pregnant with you." Sarah's hand went to her mouth. "They disowned him when he married me. Cut him off completely. We struggled for years, baby. Those mac and cheese dinners, you remember? That wasn't by choice. That was all we could afford. But James, he never complained. He said we were building something real, something that couldn't be taken away. And when he got sick, when the cancer came, his family showed up at the hospital one time. And you know what his mother said to me? She said, if you'd let him stay in his world where he belonged, he would have had better health care." Tears were streaming down my face now. She blamed me for his death. And part of me believed her. So when the properties started making money, when I realized I was building real wealth, I didn't tell you because you didn't want me to love you for the money, Sarah whispered. You wanted to know I loved you anyway. Retry. Yes, the word came out broken. I wanted to know that who I was, without the money, was enough. That you wouldn't look back at our struggles and be ashamed. That you wouldn't think your father died for nothing. Sarah pulled me into her arms, and we both cried. Really cried. The kind of crying that comes from years of words left unsaid, fears left unspoken, love left complicated by silence. Mom, I was never ashamed. Not of you, not of Dad, not of mac and cheese dinners or thrift store clothes or any of it. I was ashamed that Brandon made me feel like I should be. We held each other for a long time. Finally, Sarah pulled back and looked at me. What do we do now? The wedding is in 36 hours. Half the guests probably know what happened by now. Brandon's at his parents' house. I'm here. And we're supposed to be getting married in front of 320 people. What do you want to do? I want to marry him, Mom, even after everything. Even knowing he messed up. Because I saw his face yesterday when he realized what he'd done. I saw him break. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think he needed to break. We both did. I reached into my purse and pulled out the lease documents. These were never signed. Technically, no agreement was made. So we have nowhere to live? I didn't say that. I pulled out a different envelope, this one containing a deed. This is the title to the house on Riverside Drive. It's yours. Both of you. A wedding gift. Sarah stared at the document. Mom, this is a $2.7 million house. It's a house for my daughter and her husband to build their life in. But Sarah, this gift comes with a condition. Her face shifted, uncertain. That you never, ever apologize for where you came from again. Not to Brandon, not to his family, not to anyone. That you walk into rooms knowing exactly who you are and who raised you. Can you do that? Yes. Sarah's voice was firm. Yes, I can do that. Then call your fiancé. Tell him to come home. You two have a wedding to prepare for. Brandon came to see me that night at 9 p.m., holding supermarket flowers. The gesture meant more because they weren't expensive. Anita. May I come in? I let him in. Made coffee. We sat at my kitchen table. Sarah told me about the house. And I don't know if I can accept it. Not because of pride, though I have too much of that, but because I don't know if I've earned it. You haven't. He looked up, startled. You haven't earned it, Brandon. This isn't a reward. It's an investment. I'm betting that the man who wrote me that letter, the man sitting in my kitchen looking humble and scared and honest, that's who you're becoming. But are you marrying my daughter to prove something to yourself? Or because you actually see her? I see her. His voice was quiet but steady. I see her strength. I see where she gets it from, and I see how close I came to losing her because I was too blind to see what was right in front of me. Then do better. Not just tomorrow at the wedding. Every day after. When your friends make jokes about in-laws. When your mother suggests Sarah change anything about herself. When someone asks what your wife's mother does for a living, you tell them the truth. You tell them she's Anita Coleman, and she taught you everything you didn't learn at Harvard. I will, I promise. The wedding day was beautiful. Clear October sky, leaves turning gold and red. I wore deep purple with silver accents. Patricia Phillips had suggested beige. I wore purple anyway. The seating chart had been changed. I was at table 3, right up front, where I should have been all along. When Sarah walked down the aisle, she looked at me first. Not at Brandon, at me. And she smiled. A real smile, the kind that said, "We're okay." Brandon's vows were simple. Sarah, I promise to see you. Every day. All of you. Where you come from, where you're going, who you are. I promise to never make you smaller to make myself comfortable. At the reception, Brandon stood during the toasts, his hand shaking as he held the microphone. I want to say something to my mother-in-law. Anita, you gave me the greatest gift. Not the house, though that's incredible. You gave me the gift of seeing my own blindness. You showed me that success isn't about where you start. It's about how you see people along the way. Thank you for raising the woman I love. And thank you for teaching me that respect isn't optional. The room was silent. Then Marcus started clapping. Mother Gibson joined in. Soon everyone was applauding. I raised my glass. To seeing people, really seeing them. To seeing people, the room echoed back. Later, as I was leaving, Sarah caught me in the parking lot. Mom, thank you for everything, for the truth, for loving me enough to let me be angry. That's what mothers do. We love you through everything, even when we mess up. I'm going to do better. We both are. I know you will. I kissed her forehead. Now go. Your husband is waiting. I drove home thinking about legacy, about what we pass down to our children. Not just money or things, but truth. The truth that dignity is earned through character. That respect is given when you see people for who they really are. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Brandon and I just walked into our house. Our house, Mom. Thank you doesn't feel like enough. I love you. I typed back. It's enough, baby. Now build something beautiful. And I knew they would. Not perfect. Beautiful. The kind that comes from breaking and healing and choosing each other anyway. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't disappearing. It's showing up fully, honestly, with all your truth on display and teaching the people you love to do the same. That is Anita's story. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? What city? What country? Drop it in the comments below. I love seeing our global community come together over these stories. Real question. If you were Anita, what would you have done? Would you have revealed your wealth from the beginning? Let Brandon sign that lease at market rate and learn his lesson the hard way. Or would you have made the same choice Anita did, giving them the house and betting on his growth? Tell me in the comments. Here's an even harder question. Was Anita right to hide her wealth from Sarah for 28 years? Should she have told her daughter the truth, or did she do the right thing letting Sarah build character through struggle? Was working 3 jobs in college a gift or a betrayal? Comment your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something. Share it if you know someone who has ever been underestimated because of their job, their appearance, or where they come from. Someone who built an empire in silence while the world assumed they had nothing. Someone who had to choose between proving a point and protecting their child's heart. And subscribe for more raw, real stories about respect, dignity, hidden strength, and the price of being seen for who you really are. One last thing, Team Anita or Team Sarah? Do you think Anita was wrong to hide her success, robbing Sarah of an easier life? Or was she right to teach her daughter that money doesn't define worth? And what about Brandon? Was his transformation real or just survival? Comment below. I read every single one. Thanks for watching. Sometimes the people who look invisible are the ones who see everything. And sometimes the greatest lesson isn't about money, it's about learning to see people for who they really are, not who you assume they should be. See you in the next video.